maybe they have other air traffic that they just couldn't move on. Like, I don't know, but I just felt to lose it. Yes.
No.
I hate flying anyway. Do you really care?
It doesn't bother me. I don't fit. That's my problem. My legs hurt. So I always take the exit
Your
row.
chin?
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't mind it. That is my number one long flight suck.
Yeah, they suck for short people.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all board members are present. Administrative staff, Rebecca is absent. She is at the town of Red River. This meeting was submitted to the Green Bay Press-Gazette on Friday, February 14th, 2021. The meeting, 2025, dyslexia. The meeting notice was distributed on Friday, February 14th, 2025, for posting to the Bank of Luxembourg Home Office, Luxembourg Post Office, and Casco Post Office. Our district's mission statement: we inspire minds, challenge students, and promote excellence. We are Spartans. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made by Bob. Second.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Rob. Or second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comments on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. Prior to making a public comment, individuals must announce their name, address, and group affiliation. Each speaker's comments are limited to 3 minutes. All statements are to be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Speakers should not expect an immediate response or reaction to their comments. Is there any public comment? Hearing none. Our next meeting date, subject to change, are March 24th, 2025, and April 28th, 2025, both here in this room. Board administration opening comments. Board?
I just want to compliment the middle school music students. Participated at Denmark for their solo ensemble, and they had just under 60 entries. So it was very well participation, and good judges scores and good judges. So it was nice to attend.
Comment on the WSB convention. Great convention again, great speakers, seminars. In particular, the one that caught my attention, the one I enjoyed the most was the one on solar energy and how CISA 10 is working with different school districts to go ahead and utilize solar energy as an offset for the electric. It was a very, very good seminar. I think it's something that we might want to consider in the future. The other thing, the after sessions in the evening where you get to rub shoulders with other board members from around the state was a great, great convention. I really hope more of the board members attend in the future. And then also on the CISA status thing, we are in the process of hiring a new administrator. We are down to 4. We selected the final 4 applicants for it, so we'll be moving forward with that. Other than that, they went through their financial audit by their accounting firm also last time. Everything came through looking good there. So we do have 4 really good applicants to take Colleen's place. So it'll be interesting how that turns out. That's it.
I want to compliment the middle school and high school after the little towel fire event. I heard good things from not only students, but parents from students and also from staff on what a great job.
Thank you.
You know, no panic, and they couldn't believe how the middle school stayed in line.
They did a nice job.
So congrats. Anyone else?
Just a reminder, it's the musical this coming weekend, so if you've not gotten a ticket yet, it's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Friday night, 7 o'clock, Saturday, 7 o'clock, Sunday, 2 o'clock. So, the kids have been working really hard. So I like that they use their Facebook page to promote and show others like what they've been working on. Set looks great, so.
Yes, it looks good. Okay, consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted under one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the board votes, unless a board member requests an item to be moved from the consent agenda for separate action. Do I have an approval?
I'll make them.
I sent questions off, but Rebecca isn't here. She followed, I followed back up with her on, don't have responded. When she's not here, I guess, give her more clarification than anything else. So I'll make a motion to approve consent as presented.
Okay, is that a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Yeah, just email her back. Yeah.
Oh, she was gone on vacation. I thought she-
Okay, administrative reports, mid-year progress reports by the building goals. I think you're being prompted.
You want me to go first?
Otherwise-
Why don't I go first this time?
Yeah. Thanks, Heather.
Excuse me. Yes, looking at our school goals, that we set last summer, our school goal for reading was to have at least 73% of our students make a full year's growth in iReady. So far at the mid-year, currently we have 63% of students that made a half year's growth or more. So we're right where, pretty much right where we were last year at this time, because I look back and I think we're maybe 1% down or something like that, but compared to last year. But so we're making good progress towards that, and I think you know, the kids are responding well to not just the tier 1 instruction, but also to the tier 2 and tier 3 interventions that are happening as well. And in math, our school goal is for 70% of our students to make a full year's growth in iReady. And right now we're at 59%, so down just a little bit from the reading that have made a half year's growth or more at this point in time. So we're pretty much right on the same track as we were years past. So, any questions?
All right, thanks. So I have a bit more explaining to do, only because our data is slightly skewed this year in reading. So our goal for reading by the end of the year is that at least 76% of students meet a 1 year's growth in iReady on reading. At the midpoint right now, we're at 56% of students, which is substantially down from in past years. We have not taken this lightly, so we actually, between Kyle and myself, we spent a lot of time talking with the iReady reps that we currently work with, trying to understand our data. They are telling us, and the data does show this, that we had more students come into the year in fall proficient, in more than in past years. And so because of that, obviously the window to grow is shorter and more challenging to grow throughout the year. So that's their justification for us as to why our growth score is currently down, is just because more kids came in at a higher rate. So again, it's gonna show a shorter growth rate from window to window. So we're really not concerned yet, just because the other projections are still aligning with where we have been. And not that, you know, we want to be average, because obviously at LC we like to be above and beyond. But we are above the national report. Typically at iReady, they see the school districts that they are servicing. Only 50% of most districts achieve a half year's growth by the end of the year. So we're at 56% of students that have met a half year's growth at this point. So already above and beyond where they typically see scores, but again, not the data we're typically used to. They did do some renorming, which is also potentially skewing some of the results. That's something else, again, Kyle and I have been talking with iReady a lot about, just to make sure that we fully understand why our scores are reporting that way. So I will update you as we go along. Obviously, we have one more testing window, and we are hoping that our scores do shoot up. I don't know that it's gonna get to the 76% mark that we hope. However, as long as our students are, again, scoring more proficient and able to maintain that and grow, at least to some regard, we'll be fine. So that's reading. In math, we're pretty much status quo, so the goal is that we want at least 84% of students making a 1 year's growth for iReady Math. Right now, we're at 62%. Last year, at this time, we were at 64%. So again, pretty status quo, nothing to be concerned about. And then behavior, our goal this year has shifted from previous years. This year we provided or are providing 3 structured teaching opportunities that align with basically the Spartan Way expectations in our building. At the start of the year, teachers just did a general overview of rules in all the various locations across our building and outside our building. When students came back from winter break, we did a Kahoot that our Spartan Way committee created that had obviously questions pertaining to behavioral expectations across the school. And in the spring, we are doing a scavenger hunt around the building. It'll be like where do you have to behave in XYZ manner, and students will have to identify that location. So trying to make it a little bit more fun and applicable for the students. It's working out really well right now. Something I felt was interesting and surprising that I wanted to report on is that last year at this time, I probably reported out that recess was probably one of our biggest areas of concern. Surprisingly, the classroom has actually been the bigger area of concern this year. We're at 310 referrals so far this year in the classroom, versus at recess right now we're at 210. So things have shifted. I think that also sometimes attributes to our academic data. Obviously, we're redirecting more and having to take a bit more time to slow down instruction, reteach instruction, things like that as well. Questions?
If you had a preference, which would be more important in your opinion? The growth or the number of students or percent of students at proficiency?
I think proficiency is more important. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but we focus on growth just because it's easier to track in iReady. We haven't focused on proficiency in the past. Obviously, we look at that data to support where we're at. But obviously, we want more of our students at least being proficient or above proficient.
So if you're proficient, the grade level curriculum is not gonna get you to grow as much because you're at that level.
That's kind of.
So which is why we actually have acceleration in our district, and on the math side, we have probably about 65 kids total, if I go to the middle school, because it's easier for me to explain it that way, that are in accelerated courses, which means that they're above their grade level, which is why our data, right now our ELA, we have one section of about 28 kids usually to 30. And so we're always looking at how do we improve that and other things, but proficiency really is the bar. When you look at the school report card, because all the different weights and metrics, I would just prefer for it to be how many kids are proficient, because that should be the goal for every child. But so that's really ultimately in the end what we're striving for.
And in terms of proficiency right now, we have 65% of our students scoring in proficiency across the building. So that's higher than in past years where we were at 58% last year, 59% the year before, and 59% in 21-22. So again, that's where we're hopeful that the data will play out in the end for us. It's just the growth scores, messing with us a bit right now.
And so iReady sent us, I'm gonna respond to it right now, that's what I was working on, a longitudinal study with them on some of the things that we utilize in the program and we've been utilizing. And so they will use us as an opportunity for us to learn a lot more, because they know we'll push and do things the right way. So I look forward to learn that, and then we can also ask a lot harder questions that maybe the main rep can't answer, but the data people can. When I went to the conference, I spent some time with the guy who was talking at a level way up here above my head and some things, so, which is good. It stretches you to think differently.
If we were to meet our goals, which it sounds like we'll be very close, or if not, for good reason, do you know where that puts us in the state?
I mean, we normally compare it based on forward. Like we try to, iReady and forward are in some regards comparable. So, I mean, in terms of that, I think like the intermediate school, I think we were 25 maybe. Mike, again, you're the data guru.
Out of like 2,400 elementary school buildings. So you're taking all the elementary school buildings across the state of Wisconsin and the intermediate school was ranked number 25. Now, that doesn't include, so you have Lombardi Elementary, or not Lombardi, the Gifted and Talented School. Da Vinci, thank you. There's like about 12 different schools or 14 different schools that are like that on that list above us. So this isn't comparing where these are all just our students. We don't hand select anybody or do anything when you're doing that comparison. And I don't pull them out because it doesn't really matter, because then that pushes them a little bit. No, I'm just kidding, they're doing amazing. I mean, you're talking about like top 10 in the state, on the school.
So
If I
assuming
could-
we can get our data where we want it, we should be able to score in this similar range of forward that we had in the previous multiple years, so.
Very high.
It's just too bad that the Green Bay Crescent set never covers Luxemburg-Casco. They only go Brown County, so we never get kudos.
Yeah. And I can tell you in CISA 7 for ELA, we've been ranked between 2 and 4 in math in proficiency, because that's what we, and then 2nd through 7th, I think this last year, a bunch of schools really shot up in reading, and so we actually called them and found out what they were doing. So we're always like, we're not gonna sit and settle for being where we're at. That's not okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
So I'll try to segue from that. So if we're talking about proficiency, you know, so those kids that are achieving as they are at the intermediate, they come to us, we hang pretty well with proficiency. It's not the same exact number that the kids are achieving when they get to us. Our goals are all based on growth, however. Our growth number has been a little bit lower than what we would like when we compare to the kids when they're coming over to us. And it's the one that's typically the lower on the state report card. So we've got a few years now where we've been focusing on growth. So our reading goal is to have 70% of middle school students achieve a minimum of 1 year's growth on the HMH assessment. Reading, we went to the HMH. We've also been finding that the iReady's ability to predict for us at the middle school what we might do on the forward hasn't been as accurate as it had been in years past. And a combination of Mike, Kyle, and I, we've had a number of conversations about that. So anyway, our goal is 70%. As of right now, we have 62% of them who are on track already for that. I'm thinking this one's going to be close. It's going to be close to us hitting our goal of 70%. And I'm trying to be conservative because I was not as conservative last year. I was more hopeful. Math, our goal is to have 72% of middle school students achieve a minimum of a year's growth in iReady. We're behind that goal. Right now, we're at about 45% that have met typical annual growth. I'm not going to be surprised if we don't make the math goal. Of course, we're aiming for that. We have plenty of the school year yet. We've had a couple of differences in the classroom. So from a teacher to a student teacher to another teacher to replacing a teacher to, there's been a few of those kinds of things. We're still hopeful, we're still aiming for it, but we're currently behind that one. Behavior engagement. Over the summer, the staff decided we need to take a real heavy whack at tardiness. So we started gathering some of that data the tail end of last school year to inform a goal for this year. And I won't get into the math behind how we came up with this. But if you just generally imagine every student has 9 transitions in a day because we have 8 periods in a Spartan time. So there's 9 opportunities for them to either be on time or not, times 300 students, times 172 days in the school year and so on. Long story short, our goal was to have fewer than 3,600 tardies building-wide for the year. With 64% of the school year, we're at 1,400. So we're less than half of the year total at 65% of the school year. And in case you're wondering, a third of those are first period. Kids getting to school on time. And if you,
Because that drop-off lane is just complete cluster. Don't do it if you don't have to.
so there's a variety of whys. I mean, there's another period that's up there. So we're definitely on track for that one. We're a bit behind in math, and it's going to be close for reading. And again, those are all growth goals. Our proficiency is still good, but we're trying to take a whack at that growth goal. See if we can't move the report card on that one. That's what I have.
Good.
I think you're up.
Okay. So we have 3 goals for the year. I'll start with our behavior goal. So looking at our EduClimber data from last year, our number 1 entry in there was academic dishonesty. So we've been trying to work with students all year on that. Last year we had 89 referrals for academic dishonesty or cheating. We started out the year with really trying to norm ourselves across the school on what academic dishonesty looks like in each of the different core subjects and everything as well. The good news is as the year has gone along, every month the amount of referrals for academic dishonesty has gone down. So right now we're currently at 42 of them through the year, and every month, like I said, that number has gone down. In January, on our early release day, our PBIS team did a lesson that we did for the entire school body, just kind of showing them what does academic dishonesty really mean. Let me backtrack a little bit. Before that, they brought some students in to get their kind of input on what are the issues, what are we not understanding about this, how this looks, and things like that. And then they developed a lesson on that they then displayed to all of the students and went through. And it really seems to be making a difference that we're kind of having these conversations throughout the whole school building on it. So I've got pretty good confidence, knock on wood, that where we're at and the fact that every month those numbers have gone down, we will have less referrals than what we had last year when it comes to academic dishonesty. Our next goal was to really put in an actual pre-ACT and ACT test prep kind of program for our students. One of the biggest components of the state report card for the high school is how you perform on the ACT for that 1-day test that shows how well your school does. There was no sarcasm there or anything.
I think
But it is important that we're preparing our students. So for the last 3.5 weeks, and we got 2.5 more weeks of it, during our Spartan time on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, we have been doing pre-ACT, ACT prep with our students, really trying to teach them some of the test strategies, how to navigate that test so that you can perform the best you can. When we get through it all, we'll pull back the committee that we were with to talk to them about what went well, what didn't go well. Should we try the same thing next year? Should we change it? Should we revamp it? So we'll have that discussion to see what really worked well and take that from there. So that was our second goal, was really kind of putting together a good test prep program. And then the last goal, it directly correlates with that ACT prep, and it is improving our reading score on the ACT, specifically the amount of students that are scoring proficient. Looking at our data, our reading the past couple of years has been the lowest, so we want to improve that data. To give you an example, 3 years ago, 34% of our students were scoring proficient on the reading portion of the ACT. 2 years ago, 38% were scoring proficient. Last year, 46% were scoring proficient. So it's been going up, but we want to continue going up. So our goal is that 5%, we will have a 5% increase this year of students that are scoring proficient to get us over that 50% mark on the amount of students scoring proficient on the ACT reading portion of the exam. So hopefully this ACT prep can kind of propel us and push us forward. Some of the other things, our staff in general across the board have been trying to put a lot more literacy, a lot more reading into their curriculums as well. Our math teachers have been doing a really good job of trying to put more reading in science, social studies. So we've really been kind of trying to put our best foot forward to bring those scores up to get us over that kind of 50% threshold of students scoring proficient on the reading portion of the ACT. Questions on any of that?
Jenny?
So we're in the thick of getting ready for tournaments. Our dance team took third in D4 prom a couple weeks ago, so that was really exciting, and Elena Holscher. From what I understand, we haven't had many of our dancers that got placed on the all-state team for her individual performance, so that was exciting. Our bowling team will be heading to state in a couple weeks. All of our wrestlers individually are going on to sectionals for the boys. We have 2 girls going to sectionals this Friday, and then the team came up just a little bit short last night at Bayport, so that was, gave a good run there, especially now being in Division I. So girls basketball got the 3 seed, and we'll be hosting Pulaski next Friday, and then boys will find out their seeding this weekend. So we're coming to the end of it for the winter season, so yeah, it's exciting. Then I sent you some things from the WIA as far as the football model. It's going to change. That's quite a bit of a change. It took me like days to like learn that matrix, just so you know, because I am on the advisory board, so I like had to actually know what I was talking about. So it is a little confusing at first. I think overall the model is a good model. We wouldn't have made the playoffs though this year in this new format. Just some things that will be different with football. And then, yeah, the sign for Steve, Bob, you had asked a question about putting it on top. The only, you can change where it says Luxemburg-Casco Spartans, that can go to the bottom, I think. We'd have to switch. It can't go over the
Yeah,
arch,
okay.
so.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was there
Yeah.
already. I thought it was just a makeup kind of
Yeah.
deal, but yeah, that's fine.
And then next month I'll bring to you what's going up for, what we will be voting on at the annual meeting in April every year. There's some big ticket items, NIL again, name, image, likeness. It got shot down last year, but I think they did a better job of educating. It probably needs to pass, otherwise some legislators will put something on. So that's a big ticket item, and then coach's contact is another big ticket item. Could be some changes with that in the summer, just making it a little bit more easier for everybody to understand. So we'll keep you posted on those.
It's hard to visualize that spring sports
Yeah.
are going to start.
Couple weeks.
Yeah, it'll change fast.
Jane?
Jane, 1 second. One thing I completely forgot to mention. It has nothing to do with the goals, but you're gonna see an email from me probably tomorrow or Friday. Mike and I have been meeting with our school counselors. One of the big things that has been talked about, and there's been a lot of people that ask, it's the topic of weighted grades. And what classes should be weighted, what classes shouldn't be. There's confusion from people, so what we're doing is we're gonna put together a committee of teachers, counselors, some students, administrators as well, and I'm gonna send an email inviting you all as well, any of you that want to attend and have that conversation. We're thinking probably 3 hour-and-a-half meetings or so. There's no right or wrong answer, I think, to it, but I think it's more or less having that conversation of what do we feel as a community for our students that makes the most sense for what classes should be weighted. I guess the first question is, should we have weighted grades? And if the answer is yes to that, what of our classes should be weighted? What scales should they be on? Should they be a 4.8, 4.4, things like that? So we're putting together a group for that, and I'm gonna send an email inviting any of you that wanna join for that conversation as well. And that'll be coming tomorrow or Friday, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's gonna be coming as well.
So just, the issue is the consistency, meaning if we offer an AP art class now here, and because every AP class that's offered in our district gets a 4.8 weight, but if the student was to take the AP art class at GB, they would get a 4.0 GPA bump if they get at that level. And so those are just little things that weren't thought about, and we keep adding more classes and all of that other stuff, so it's time to just think it through of every possible scenario. We just want slow thinking time to make sure we don't run into it. Now, it didn't impact any students, but we want to be out in front of it. We don't want to be on the back end of those issues, and so just wanted to, and we're looking for 1 or 2 people. We want 8 teachers, 4 to 6 students. So we want a group of about 20 people total in the end. And we're gonna kind of do mixed groups and sit down, have conversations, solve some problems, so it'll be fun.
I was reflecting, I was thinking, I've been doing just a lot of collaboration with various people, so I thought I would just update you on some of that. As far as the county goes, I recently attended a meeting with the Kiwanee, Oklahoma school districts, law enforcement, sheriff's office, and the county workers, and we are working on updating a memorandum of understanding between all of our agencies. I asked about it, and all of the signatures on it are very old, and all people who are no longer in those roles. So it is definitely time for us to be reviewing that, so it was nice having that level of collaboration. I've also been working with on our process around if a student's in crisis, and reaching out to them and just solidifying kind of the order of what needs to happen with them in that communication to make sure that that's streamlined. So that's been great. I had meetings with DVR and youth apprenticeship, trying to take a look. So DVR is an organization that helps our students with disabilities find employment. And obviously youth apprenticeship is also very much in that employment realm. So we're running into trying to figure out how do we best work together, those two services, so that students who maybe need some support with being able to write a resume, perform in an interview, things like that, have that support from DVR, but it doesn't impact their ability to still access a youth apprenticeship program. So I've been having some conversations with both of those entities because they don't really communicate together. So we're working on coming up with how do we make sure that if the students involved in both programs, you know about it, have a release of information so you can talk with one another and support each other. So it's a lot of good things happening lately. I also had the privilege of being on a panel through WCAS where I was able to talk about how we've implemented Act 20 as it relates to students with IEPs. So it was great to hear from people. I got to share what we did, which is largely thanks to Kyle and our reading specialists and special education teachers, that it was so smooth and I was able to share how we approached it as a district. But it was really nice hearing how people across the state approached it because there were a lot of different approaches. So being able to just kind of collaborate and knowing what other districts are doing has been great. And then the other thing, I'm heading to the federal funding conference next week with Rebecca. So really looking forward to learning a little bit more about kind of some of the ins and outs and starting to, as I'm starting to think forward to next year and budgeting and staffing and all of that, having that knowledge and building that knowledge to help make some good decisions around that. Been busy. It's all good stuff.
You sound very busy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, school liaison quarterly report. Tara Artnia, I should say, is absent today because she wasn't feeling good. So we will table that till next week. Posting open positions.
So as an administrative team, we've met and we looked at all the positions that are going to be open from retirements. And we had some positions that were left unopened previously. And so what we would like to do is to post the first grade teacher, the 2 second grade teachers, and the high school English teacher right away. We're trying to get ahead of the hiring curve because people are going to start looking for jobs. It starts in February. And the reason why we want to post these positions is because the class sizes. We looked at what would happen if we reduced a teacher. It would just plug the other classes with kids, and the class sizes would be really big. Tyson also put together for the high school English because the question becomes, if we have a lot of kids that are taking classes from UWGB and NWTC, can we afford to reduce a teacher? But he really did a very good job of outlining what that impact would be, and it's not as much of an opportunity to reduce staff at this point. Because we still have, 8th grade or 9th grade classes and 10th grade classes are still required because they're required to have 4 years of English. But that's a hard one to reduce. We have 3 hold positions: a special ed teacher, district EL Spanish bilingual, and the full-time special ed para professional ed. We want to do some more digging into the position and getting some more information and analyzing. Do we need these positions, or could we tweak them a little bit, move them around a little bit? We just need a little more time with that. We already have posted a speech and language pathologist, and we actually had somebody apply this time. We would really rather have a person in position rather than the virtual service that we're using. So we are hoping that works out. And I think that they're a native to Luxembourg, so that's even better because it's And then special ed referrals are continuing to increase. So there may be a possibility of needing to add a special education teacher to be able to meet our IEP needs. So,
At any particular level or special ed?
intermediate middle school. So I just wanted to update you on that, so we did our due diligence and looking to see how can we reduce any of their positions the best that we can.
And that was one thing we had looked into. Okay, discuss and approve the audit services for 25 through 27.
So Rebecca sent out the RFP for our audit service, to Clifton Larson Allen, Hawkins Ash to use. Erickson and Associates, did not receive a response, and Kerber Rose, declined to bid because they have a staff shortage. So the recommendation though is, Rebecca would like to keep working with Hawkins Ash. She likes working with them. Every time you switch, different auditors, even though that, sometimes they look for different things, and so that she's more comfortable now that she's worked with Hawkins Ash for a couple of years. She feels that the audits are going very smoothly. She understands what they want her to present for the audit, and it's going well. So she would like to continue.
And they're very reputable.
And I thought the report was easy to understand also besides. But you need a motion on recommendation.
Yep,
to approve
I do.
it.
So motion by Dave, second,
I'll second.
second by Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Student activity account for the International Thespian Society.
So we had approved the International Thespian Society previously, but we did not approve a, activities account. And we had a little bit of a mix-up at the bank about, but we clarified that, we had a conversation that, we track, and have student activity accounts specifically to help student activities accounts with their money and to have, proper accounting for them, so.
I'll make the motion to approve. Motion by Jenny,
I'll second.
second by Brandy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Board policy, first reading, discuss and approve the 2264 non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs.
Okay, so with the new 2024 Title IX guidelines, we adopted a policy that was consistent with law at the time. And that now with a new president that has switched. And so, by default, the policy is void because it no longer matches law. But we've been recommended to remove the policy officially. So that's why 2264 is recommended to be rescinded.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Bob,
I'll second.
second by Rob, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we will come back again next month.
Correct. And then policy 2266, which was the original 2020 policy, there was a sunset clause in that at the point that when this policy ended and the 2024 took over, anything that happened before that switch was governed by the 2020 policy, anything after would be the 2024. And so this takes out that sunset clause and it reinstates the 2020 policy.
So all of that discussion from a few months ago is just out the door. Okay, need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Alex, second. I'll second. Second by Jenny, all in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion, okay.
I would like to change it so that the very first sentence in the introduction, that we remove the lines that are, or the portion in the parentheses that says, including sexual orientation or gender identity, that does not need to be in there because of our state law definitions of sex, et cetera. We don't need that in there. I know there are other school districts that specifically do not have that within their portion, and I would prefer to see that section in the parentheses removed.
Discrimination on the basis of sex says it all, basically.
Well, just so that we also understand though, when, if we have a Title IX complaint and it has to do with transgender, it falls under this policy as well, even though it's not stated.
That is correct.
Because the 7th District Court has already defined that that's discrimination based on sex includes, you know, transgender students.
Definitely.
Yeah, but that.
Just so
I mean,
that
still
we're all
se-
understand,
yeah,
we all,
yeah.
you don't have to have the words there, but you have to have that understanding that that's what it means.
Yes.
So I would move that we amend before we approve it.
For that.
So we just,
Redo your motion.
I mean, I don't have a
Can,
problem
can
with
we
it.
just do a motion to approve it with the amendment?
I would assume so.
June 2?
Yeah,
Is you all right with that, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's a first for you, Alex.
Yes.
And a second for you, Jen.
Sure.
Motion's been made and seconded with the amended to remove including sexual orientation and gender identity. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we will see that in next. Mid-year progress report on the 24-25 budget.
Okay, so, Dr. pulled this together to give us a snapshot of where we are, in our budget this year. So this is through the end of January. We have about 39.55% of our budget has been spent. Last year at this time, spending was about 3% higher. For salaries for administration and teachers, we're at 43.33% of the budget. Estimating out to the end of February, it would be about 52%, so that falls within acceptable parameters where we should be. Benefits for administrators and teachers are at 41.5. Again, at the end of February, it's going to be at 50%, because we have to make some adjustments, because teachers start getting paid in September, and then they go until August. Administrators start in July and go till June. So that's why it doesn't go within a 6-month calendar for our kind of half-time report. Salaries for staff for support staff is at 51.23%. That's year-round staff at school employees. Again, that difference in how people get paid creates a little bit of difference in that 50% split for salaries. Same thing for benefits for support staff. Salaries for extended sub coverage, we've spent 39.5%. That budget amount was increased because we went over budget last year, so that amount is a little bit less, but there was more money in the pot to begin with. Salaries for internal sub coverage is at 31.89%. So we still have some more. We usually see staff taking more personal days towards the end of the year, so it's very common to be under that 50% mark at our mid-year. Our HRA, our health reimbursement accounts, our utilization is at 41%. We usually don't budget for our full liability amount, so we usually don't come close to that. So we budgeted 35.14% of our total HRA liability on there. And our utilization is down from last year. It's down about 5.16%. Teachers have used up their supply budgets at 56.21%. We have a deadline of April 1st as to when they have to have their supplies bought for the year. And so we'll be getting a lot more POs coming in until April 1st. Staff development and curriculum budget is at 93%. That's because we did a lot of staff development and curriculum, especially with the Act 20 training in the summertime. So most of that budget is gone. The expense for the district staff for open and roll out, the cost per student for open enrollment out went up $344 that we budgeted for. We budgeted for 69 students going out. If the number of students going out increases, we will go over budget. We'll short in that area. Transfer to special ed was budgeted at about 2.5 million. Fund 27, which is special ed, has to balance out of balance to zero at the end of the year, so we have to transfer from our general fund to our special ed fund. We budgeted, last year we transferred $2.3 million to cover special ed costs. Special ed is currently budgeted, we get reimbursed at 33% of our actual costs. There's some discrepancies with some high cost special ed cases that we can do a little bit extra payment on. That's a big thing in the state legislature for the budget for the biennial, is that they're trying to push that percentage of special ed reimbursement up, which would be great, because then that means we could transfer less money from our general fund, so we have some money in the general fund to spend. Our technology budget, we've spent 77.36%, and it is less than, about 22% less than January last year. We looked at our E-rate reimbursements, and we were using a service from CISA 7 to kind of audit our E-rates, and we ended up finding $15,000. We went back and we looked for reimbursement for last year. We got both reimbursements, last year's reimbursement and this year's discount this year. So we had $30,000 that we were that we got back. And also in technology, starting next year, we're joining a consortium in Wisconsin and actually Pennsylvania for security software suite that's actually going to save us $17,000 a year. But we're going to have access to it in May and June, so that Scott can implement it and ready to go. So then July 1st we hit a button and we have the new system and we have the same facilities. There's $300,000 budgeted for sick leave payout for retirements, and we have $23,800 is going to be paid out of that. The athletic budget, we're at 62.9%. Middle school budget, we're at 72%, so that's a little bit high. We were looking into that next year. I think we're going to separate out our athletics and activities so we can see a little bit close, get a little bit more granular in how we're looking at those budgets. The activities and athletics can be paid out different ways. Some people get paid at the end of the season, some get paid out twice during the season, so that can skew some of the numbers. Building maintenance, we had $309,000 set aside for that. The budget includes supplies, small maintenance repairs of under $10,000. Our utilities are down, which is good, but then now we have this cold snap, so we'll see what happens with that. Our capital improvement budget was $150,000. We repaired the roof at the high school, the boiler leak at Casco, and now we have a whole slew of disasters that we're dealing with. Groundskeeping, we're at 47.57% of the budget. Spending's a little higher than last year, but we just approved a new cap for the snow blower, and then Jesse came in, there's something with the transmission on the blower, so we have to get that fixed as well. It does here that Jordan was called twice this school year so far, until the last 2 weekends. So actually, our budget is looking pretty good. Yeah, I bet. Wisconsin Youth Risk Behavior Survey.
Yep, I just wanted to let you know that I did work with our middle school and high school counselors to see if students opt to participate in that YRBF survey. We got some really great data from it. I kind of gave a little overview of it. It is anonymous, so there's no students' names or anything attached to it. It's voluntary for them to participate. Parents will be notified ahead of time. We have a letter drafted, and then the counselors are going to maintain an opt-out spreadsheet so that technology on the front end can pull out any student emails so that the students aren't sent the survey at all and opt out of that, and our counselors will be kind of taking the lead on that. But it is useful as far as the data that we get to look at it. We can take a look at how our school looks in comparison to the rest of the state schools in many different categories. The state uses it to write grants to to fund different things. I was able to like pull in and use that data, when we wrote that peer-to-peer suicide grant this year. So it's nice having that data handy. It can be used for a lot of different things. So that is scheduled for the high school, the end of April, and the middle school, the very beginning of May. It's about 35 minutes for the students to take, so I think it's, worth doing. Just wanna let you know about that, and hopefully we'll start to talk about this.
Health insurance.
So we're already working on health insurance for 25-26. Last year we had a greater than 100% usage on our insurance, which doesn't necessarily bode well. I think that that's the second year that we've had greater than 100%. For the first 6 months, we had a 7% increase in claims. What's happening is our number of high-cost claims increased, although the number of our low-cost claims decreased. Our cost per admissions increased, but the number of admissions decreased. Our renewal of WCA is due March 15th, and then once that happens, we'll be putting that out for bid. We're looking at Network. They're trying to grow their book of business. With that company, however, Aurora would be out of our network. Anthem is bidding schools again. They did not last year, so that is a possibility. WPS is looking to grow their book of business, which again bodes well. Robin, that is a company that Prevea would not be covered at all. And that is a concern because Door County and Memorial would not be covered, and that's the center that Washington Island uses most often, and they're part of our consortium, so that probably isn't a very viable option. Last year, Anthem and WPS did not even bid. We were told to anticipate a 10 to 12% increase in the referendum calculations. When we did our referendum calculations, we budgeted 10% as an increase. So we had in our 23-24, we had a 15% increase with plan changes. Last year we started at 14%, and then we were able to negotiate down to 8% with no plan changes, but being another year going above 100% usage, I don't know how much leverage we're going to have. Right now, our district pays 90% of the premium for insurance. Employees pay 10%. More districts are going to like 88% or 85%. The employees picking up more of that percent. That's just information. We have been working with other districts to try to join the co-op. We talked to CISA 7, seeing if they want to join the co-op. We're still, our disadvantage is that we are, since we're over 100% usage, why would anybody want to hook their wagon to us at this point? But insurance ebbs and flows, and it always does, and we just happen to be high now. Districts that are low will go up, and that is just the way it goes. Last year, we explored an HSA high deductible option, but there was a premium cost to offer 2 different plans and letting employees have choices. And so because of that premium to run 2 different plans, it wasn't cost effective to be able to do that. So that was something we had looked at. Dental, we've already been told we're getting a 2% increase. 23-24 school year, there was a multi-year rate, so there was no increase last year. This year we have a 2%. Next year we're going to get a 2%. So that's where we're sitting for insurance.
Who's the dental? Is that Delta?
Delta.
Okay. I find it strange at my business, I've gone with no dental or vision cost increase the last 4 years in a row with Delta. Negotiated.
Well, yeah.
I'm the only carrier.
From a small business for me.
That's kind of where we're sitting. The network of WPS looking to get back in business.
Well, and that's why WTA has to bid us first, and that's why it's due March 15th, because they want to know what is our current carrier offering us, and then they bid it out, and then they try to, they see if they can underbid. So
WPS is comparable to WEA insurance for those of us that were in WEA a long time ago.
Remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what Jerry and I have as our software. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Guys, all in favor?
Aye.
The final number was 83,500.
Nice, and that's including, or, so we really,
Because we had to submit a grant.